Welcome to Valor and Hope, where we cut through the noise and dig into the facts. I'm Greg, an Iraq War veteran committed to progressive change. It's time to stand up, speak out, and take action for the future we deserve. Let's make that happen together. Over the last month, I've seen a lot of ads and a lot of posts on TikTok criticizing Kamala for having 3.5 years to solve the problems that she's claiming her presidency intends to address. Some of these comments include signs like, quote, "If you still hate Trump after this bleep show, your commitment to stupidity is impressive." Here's one that says, "Remember how on November 5th, 2020, gas was $1.80 a gallon and interest rates were $2.75? Here's one saying, "Breaking trend, Americans are agitated with this recent super secret plan from Kamala to bring down the cost of groceries. Many are questioning why hasn't she already done it? Kamala's been in office for 4 years and prices have gone to the moon." Here's one saying if Trump was going to be a dictator, he would have done it in his first term. If Kamala was going to fix things, she'd have done it in her first term. Here's one that says you can't reason with people who think that the woman who ruined everything in 4 years is suddenly capable of fixing everything. Here's one that was deleted, but I still had in a text message to myself, quote, "Every problem Kamala brings up, she's had 3.5 years to fix. She did nothing," end quote. First, let's take a look at some of these numbers. According to the U.S. Energy Administration records, gas prices around November 5th of 2020 were about $2.12, not 180. But hey, that's better than the 314 that it is now, right? Well, sure. I wonder what else was happening around that time you're referring to, though. It's almost as if there was some sort of global pandemic preventing people from driving as much as usual. I wonder what something like that might have on gas prices. How would that affect that? The thing is, inflation isn't uniquely a problem in America. It's been a global issue since the pandemic began. Here, let's take a look at the global inflation tracker. So here in quarter 2 2020, we see that America's at 0.36%, Canada's at 0.02%, Norway is 1.14%, Argentina's at 42%, Russia's at 3.11%, Sudan is at 117%, Iran is at 30.59%. Now let's move forward to quarter 2 2021. Getting a little higher here. America 4.85, Canada 3.35, Norway 2.83, Argentina's at 48.41, Russia's at 6.02%, Sudan is at 387%, Iran is at 43%. Move to quarter 2 2022. US is at 8.64, Canada 7.55, Norway 5.82, Russia no data to report. Argentina is at 72.43%, Sudan is at 182.68, Iran is at 43.4. Go to quarter 3 of 2023, quarter 2 2023. America is at 3.97, Canada 3.52, Norway is at 6.49, Argentina is at 133%, Sudan now has no data in addition to Russia, and Iran is at 44.5%. We'll move to quarter 2 2024, the most recent data. America's at 3.2, Canada's at 2.74. We see no data from Argentina, Russia, or Sudan this time. Norway's at 3.08%. So let's go to some of the higher outliers here. Angola is at 29.8%. Nigeria is at 33.9%. South Sudan is at 67.3%. And Turkey is at 72.27%. So what's the point of this data? I want to prove that inflation is not uniquely an American problem. Remember when the pandemic started and we had no pandemic response team because Trump fired them in 2018? Susan Rice, under the Obama administration, had established this global health, security, and biodefense team, which was meant to respond to a crisis identical to this. On January 22nd, the CDC reported the first COVID case in the US, and Trump said, "We have it totally under control. It's one person coming in from China, and we have it totally under control. It's going to be fine." On February 27th, Trump stated, "It's going to disappear. One day, like a miracle, it will disappear. And from our shores, it could get worse before it gets better. Maybe it could go away. We'll see what happens. Nobody really knows." March 11th, Trump says the risk is very, very low for most Americans, but that the elderly must be careful. Contrasting this message, however, Dr. Fauci stated that it would get worse. On April 3rd, the CDC recommended Americans start wearing cloth or fabric face coverings. Trump responded that you can do it, you don't have to do it. I'm choosing not to do it, but some people may want to do it, and that's okay. It may be good, probably will. They're making a recommendation. It's only a recommendation. On May 19th, Trump stated the number of cases were a badge of honor, claiming when we have lots of cases, I don't look at that as a bad thing. I look at it in a certain respect as being a good thing because it means our testing is much better. So if we're testing 1 million people instead of 14 million people, we'd have far fewer cases, right? NPR states that days later, the US recorded its 100,000th death attributed to coronavirus. On July 19th, Trump downplayed the pandemic as, quote, one of those many cases are young people that would heal in a day. They have the sniffles, and we put it down as a test. The sick are going to get better very quickly, end quote. At this time, the US had more than 3.7 million cases and 140,000 people dead. On September 21st, Trump said that coronavirus affects virtually nobody, and that it only affects elderly people with heart problems. If they have other problems, that's what it really affects. That's it. In some states, thousands of people, nobody young, below the age of 18 like nobody, they have a strong immune system, who knows? End quote. So you may ask, Greg, you started talking about Kamala and inflation and then switched to the pandemic. What does this have to do with anything? Well, my point here is that the global increase in inflation is due to supply chain issues and other problems related to the coronavirus pandemic, which Trump largely ignored, downplayed, and handed off to Biden. According to CNBC, some economists disagree with me and state that neither president should shoulder much blame for the inflation. Rather, they state that the blame goes to the pandemic and the Russian war in Ukraine. Now, sure, I'll be realistic. I don't think a Democratic president could have completely contained the pandemic. But I do think the response would have been far different if we had somebody in office who took it seriously from the beginning. And, a pandemic response team. I won't address the war in Ukraine much in detail here because I think that's a deep enough topic for a separate video. I will add that I've seen conservatives on TikTok say it wouldn't have happened had Trump been in office. I disagree with their speculative fiction. I think Putin wanted Ukraine and was going to invade either way. If Trump was in office, Ukraine probably wouldn't be getting the support that has been given from the US, and who knows, they may have fallen far sooner. Instead, they've fought admirably until now and are continuing on. So what conclusion does this leave us with? Inflation is a global problem. It's not isolated simply to America, and the drivers behind it include Trump's failed pandemic response and the supply chain issues that's brought, plus the war in Ukraine. According to William Dickens, a professor of economics and public policy at Northeastern, it would be ridiculous to blame everything on Biden because you can look around the world and see this is a global issue with some places far off than we are, just like I did when we looked at the map. Finally, let's address the points about Kamala. This one is super simple, guys. She's the vice president and has nothing to do with policies that have been implemented over the last 4 years of the Biden administration. But even if she had, I've made the case in this video that Biden's policies aren't to blame for the inflation our country's experiencing. And also, while she's been in an office for the last 3.5 years, it's not fair to say she's been in office for the last 3.5 years in reference to her policies because that implies she's been the president. While it's been popular since the Obama administration to conflate the administration as two people, e.g. Biden-Harris, that wasn't the case before the Obama administration. Republicans did that when they wanted to attack Biden and Obama. Previous administrations were just the president's name, like the Reagan administration or the Carter administration. Perhaps we should go back to this so that would be less confusing for you. Thanks for watching Valor and Hope. If you found this content valuable, please like, subscribe, and share with others who want to make a difference. Remember, the fight for justice is never over, but together we can keep pushing forward. Stay strong, stay hopeful, and I'll see you in the next video.